Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I began the show by explaining to you Prime Minister Netanyahu persuaded the court to suspend a hearing today. It's never done that before. There's a special meeting tomorrow morning in Israel with the Security Cabinet, then with the Intelligence Committee of the Knesset. As Bibi Netanyahu says, there is a pivotal historic turning point upon us. I'm joined by Bethany Mandel. Bethany, Edan Alexander is still in Hamas hands in the prison. What do these developments tell you, and what is your hope for Mr. Alexander and the other hostages?
So there's 63 hostages left. As many as 20 of them could be alive, maybe 22, 23. And Eden Alexander, who's an American citizen, is one of them. And we are absolutely at a turning point. Phase one is more or less over. There's still several deceased hostages that need to be handed over. It sounds like that's probably going to happen. But what happened today didn't get much attention in Western media. But Hamas launched a rocket towards Israel from Rafah. It failed because Hamas is basically beheaded. But they tried to break this ceasefire arrangement, and they failed because they're idiots. Hamas, that's based in the West Bank, also tried to perpetrate a massive bombing campaign. The morning that the bodies of Shiri, turned out it wasn't Shiri Bibas, and her two baby sons were handed over, along with Oded Lifshitz, a grandfather, in the sickening parade. At that moment, there was supposed to be a coordinated attack of 8 buses that blew up, and by the grace of God and God alone did that bombing fail. So I think Hamas is, signaling to the West and to Israel, to all of these players, they don't care about this ceasefire anymore.
So what do you expect? I think the war is going to start tomorrow again. That's what I think.
I don't think tomorrow, but I think we're going to be having a conversation about the resumption of the war by the time we talk next week at this time.
And if Israel resumes, I don't think they're going to resume with as many forces tied down anywhere else as before. Am I right about that assessment?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So in the northern front, they've lifted pretty much all of the restrictions on the north. And so all of that personnel that was up there can move south. I mean, I will say it's a volunteer army, and I have friends who have been serving in the IDF, and they're struggling. These are fathers and husbands who have been serving for the better part of a year away from their families and away from their jobs. One of my friends, Gabe, posted a picture of him in Gaza, or next to Gaza, I guess, and they've set up a tent with workstations because they're fighting war while also trying to keep their tech jobs going. It's hard.
I've got a correspondent, Dan Polisar, who sends out a note on his 3 boys, and at any given week, all 3 are in Gaza or 2 in Gaza. I mean, it's just been, for 16 months, the Polisar email's been my connection, and he's not really a friend, he's just an acquaintance on the radio. I do think they need to get this over, which would mean, of course, Soviet-style entry into Berlin. And I don't mean the atrocities, I don't mean the rampaging, I just mean you go in with the Red Army and you just go in. Do you expect, because Israel set a very high bar, they dropped all those leaflets, they said go to the beach. Do you think they'll do that again?
I mean, I think they need to signal to the civilian population that the war will be fought differently. And I think they need to signal to the wider Arab world that, like, if you care about the civilians in Gaza, which you claim to, it's time for you to start accepting them so that they can live in safety and security, because this war will be over very soon. This is the longest war in Israel's history, and it shouldn't have been. The reason why it has been was because of the fecklessness on the part of the American support, and that fecklessness ended in January. President Trump got lots of hostages home, 2 of whom were American citizens, thank God. But the war has to end. And President Trump said it himself when he saw that parade that Hamas threw to hand over the coffins of dead Israeli babies that they murdered. Like, Hamas has to be eliminated. It's clear.
Now, 10/7 is a unique category of horror. And there have been pogroms before, but they weren't on TV. 10/7, I won't watch the movie still. But last week was a depth of depravity that I didn't really imagine. And I don't know what's wrong with these people. Don't they know what it does to normal folks?
I don't think so. I mean, they, just so your listeners understand what happened, they threw a parade in the pouring rain, bringing around the coffins of two dead babies, a 4-year-old and a 9-month-old, that they murdered. And that murder was confirmed by forensics in Israel. It was shared with, I think, 10 different countries who all affirmed that determination that these babies were murdered with someone's bare hands. You cannot get more barbaric than that. These are not human beings. So I understand that they didn't fully appreciate the response of actual human beings to seeing this level of depravity.
Are you still angry on a person? I am. I'm just curious if you're still angry. I'm appalled, but I'm still angry.
I did not think it was possible for me to get angrier until that day.
Now, I also believe Donald Trump responds to images more than any president in recent memory. And I just played a bit of an Andrew Roberts book where FDR was very image driven as well, as was Eisenhower when he opened up the concentration camps. I think he called up Bibi and said, do what you got to do.
I've heard reports to that effect, that he saw that dead baby parade and he said, finish them.
Will the world do a dance that's performative, or will the world generally, when I saw the Arab world come together to say, we're going to rebuild Gaza, I think they were thrown in the hand too, that they're done with Hamas. And by the way, I saw the emir, or the leading mufti of Saudi Arabia and the mufti of UAE saying, this is disgusting. You've disgraced Allah. You've ruined Islam. I mean, it was a welcome denunciation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for every, outcry about, anything that happens in Gaza, we just have to replay the videos that Hamas themselves captured with their own videographers who are all, part of Al Jazeera. You want to know why we are where we are? Here's the video we took. There you go. This is your answer. This is why we are clearing Gaza of civilians. This is why we are bunker busting, bombing all of these tunnels, because it's over. Do
you remember that there was an outcry because Israel stripped the boys and the men down to their underwear because they were afraid of that? That was an international incident.
Yep. And these people don't understand the language of the Middle East.
And do you also know that AP reported? Did you see the AP report? I don't care if they ever get back in the White House after their report on the Bebop's children.
No, they died in captivity. That passive voice was doing a lot of work there.
Yep. Who can write that? I'm asking rhetorical questions because I'm still. I told Dwayne, I don't care if they lose every lawsuit. I don't think they will, but I don't care if they ever get back in the White House.
I mean, remember that the AP had photographers who rolled in with Hamas on 10/7. Like, this is not a mystery who these people are. The depth of depravity of Hamas is also the depth of depravity of their Western defenders. It's something I cannot possibly.
That's why last night when SAG honored Jane Fonda, I said, well, how appropriate. The last time she was in the headlines, she was covering up for the Viet Cong who held Americans hostage and tortured them. And there's an American hostage being tortured in the Hamas tunnel. So it's right for Jane Fonda to come out. Good to see you. Bethany, I hope next week you are right and I am right and that the war is quick and conclusive.